Welcome to Photo Work. I'm Mylan. This is Shannon.
Hey.
On this part 2 episode of our interview with fashion photographer Dana Pennington, what do we talk about?
We talk about what it's like working as an in-house photographer for Boot Barn, as well as his tips for moving on from shooting new faces models.
So, enjoy.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about creative director.
Sure.
How do you get around somebody who has a vision that sucks, but they're also very egotistical about it? Like, no.
Aggressive.
They're aggressive. They're aggressive about it.
You know,
Aggressive and dumb.
that's a bad
it's
combo.
a
That's a really bad combo. You kind of have to. That's a tough one because, on one hand, like they're paying the bills, and you kind of have an obligation to get the job done. There have been times where, I've been on set and I strongly disagreed with what they wanted to do, and they were really adamant about it, and you kind of have to just suck it up and do it. And hopefully if you have time at the end of the shoot, like maybe you can be like, all right, for safety, we're going to shoot something else. That's usually what I'll try and do, is just like get through it as quickly as possible and try and leave myself a little bit of a buffer at the end to, maybe try and do something better. But there have been times where I've just been like, all right, like this is what it is. I'm going to get the job done. I'm never going to share this.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't tag me in it. But I mean, luckily, like I feel like most people are at least, if you can show them the difference, they'll realize. And if it's like just a real asshole that is really into themselves, they're just gonna, have a rough product, which sucks. Like I've definitely shot things that I'm not a fan of, and it happens, and that's kind of just like, part of that's the gamble that we take, as photographers, is like a lot of times we're executing someone else's vision, and if it's not necessarily a great vision, yikes.
Yeah.
It does happen though. I've been pretty fortunate though. I haven't had to deal with it a ton. I've been pretty lucky to work with people that I've, for the most part, got along with pretty well, or at least have been able to convert into some sense of like understanding of what works and what doesn't work. But they're not all it's not always gonna go that way, and so you just have to kind of suffer in silence, I guess.
Yeah.
And then complain about it later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like, all right, if they tag you in it, untag yourself.
Untag immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Cover your tracks.
And I mean, I've gotten to a point where like I've had to sort of fire clients before, where they'll do a job and it's not a good working relationship, and they've approached me again, and I've just been like, sorry, I'm not available, just because sometimes it's not worth the headache. It's like, they're like the first consistent client that I had for a really long time was a really crappy working relationship, and I didn't like the way he did things, but it was the only client I had, so I just suffered through it, and eventually I was just like the amount of stress that this puts me through is not worth it.
You're right.
Like I'll figure it out. Like don't take the job just out of desperation.
We all do sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. That's a scary thing, when you got rent coming up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But your personal well-being is definitely something that you need to value, and that's something as artists and especially freelancers we kind of put to the side a lot. So you gotta keep it in check a little bit.
Back when you were doing freelance, what was the time frame of when clients were booking you?
It was real up and down. I would have really busy periods, and then I would go like stretches where I'm like, all right, hopefully I get a phone call here sometime soon. But some of my more consistent clients, like for e-commerce, like I've had e-commerce clients where it's like almost, at least once a month, sometimes more than that. And then, I've had clients where it's like lookbook stuff pretty consistently from season to season. But then you get those dry spells, especially like around the holidays when people aren't shooting a ton, because holiday stuff is already shot, spring stuff is basically already shot. You're kind of like that limbo period towards the end of the year is a scary time, because it's an expensive time just as a person. You've got the holidays and stuff like that, but you just kind of have to really get good about budgeting, which I'm bad at, as it turns out.
Me too.
Ugh, it's hard. Being an adult sucks.
Well, being an in-house photographer, What's the limitations with the images that you're creating? Can you use them for yourself? They allow you to use them for your book?
Yeah, like they're pretty cool. You know, obviously since you work for the company, they take ownership of the images, which is, you know, as a photographer kind of goes against everything that I've always believed. But yeah, they're cool with us. You know, we can use them for social media and use them for our books and things like that, which is nice. Because I definitely have known photographers who've been in-house at other companies where they were like, you can't use these at all. And that would suck.
Yeah.
Or like you can only use them on social media, like, and that would be a bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can use them for our portfolios and things like that, which is nice. And you know, we're still able, luckily, to freelance as well. Like they're cool with us. You know, if we have a freelance job, you know, taking some time off and, you know, going and shoot for, you know, a client, as long as it's not like a direct competition or conflict of interest, we're pretty free to, you know, still do other things. So we all have our own freelance clients, and then we all still shoot our, you know, our own editorial content and things like that, which is cool. So we still get to shoot what we want to shoot on the side. It's just time is a commodity.
Yeah, because you're exhausted from the week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like when we're on location, it's, you know, that's super exhausting. During the week, you know, e-com is not super fun, but it's also not super physically demanding. So it's like, all right, I just shot e-com, and luckily our office is in Orange County, so like there have been, you know, like maybe just shoot over to the beach and you know, after work and shoot at the beach for a couple hours or something like that, or, you know, go find a cool location on the weekend and shoot an editorial or shoot personal work. So we still get to do what we want quite a bit.
That's good.
Yeah, otherwise I think I'd go crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, there's pros and cons on both sides of the fence between freelance and in-house. So different paths for different folks. And I don't, you know, who knows how long I'll be here, but not for now. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's like an ebb and a flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Superstardom.
Yeah, I wish. No, actually, I don't think I can handle that. I would be fine with just regular stardom.
Regular industry stardom.
Yeah, yeah. I don't need the super stardom.
What are some interesting places you had to travel for shoots?
Oh man,
You got Moab. You got
Moab
Florida.
was really cool. You know, I've shot. You know, I lived and shot in Miami quite a bit, so all over that area, the Keys and things like that are beautiful. Jackson Hole, Wyoming was a place that we just shot in not too long ago, and I'd never been there. The whole place looks like it's photoshopped. It's so beautiful. So that was a good time. You know, I've shot in London and Paris, which, you know, I traveled to both of those places when I was just starting out. So those pictures are garbage, but you know, I shot there, and I definitely am planning on going back. But I love to travel, so like combining those things is huge for me. So I think my next trip is going to be Japan, though.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That's on my list.
That's
too.
my next goal. Is, Japan this year, so we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going to
Eat
Tokyo.
all the food.
Yeah, probably. My grandmother's actually from Japan. She's from a smaller town on the north side of Japan, so we're gonna go to Tokyo, and then I'm gonna try and either train or drive and go like visit her hometown, because like she's been in the States for 30 plus years and hasn't been back to Japan, so I'd like to kind of connect with that part of my distant family.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited.
Oh, that's
Take us with you.
All right, let's go. We're going. Pack your bags.
Yep.
We're going to
Oh,
Japan.
that sounds
Japan.
good. That's on my bucket list.
All the ramen.
Oh God, so much ramen.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like it's the kind of the fashion hub of that part of the world. So like, go do some shoots, and it's just like the locations there look really epic. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
For
it's
sure.
in the works.
What story do you want to do there?
I really love classic like Japan, but it's also like at the flip side of that is it's such a modern city that like just the amount of rich color there is like I really want to shoot in that city, like in Tokyo, in the thick of that city with the, you know, neon lights and people everywhere is just like so not me that it makes me really want to shoot it. So try and shoot as much as I can there though. We'll see how much I can pack into one trip.
Yeah.
And if not, I just have to go back, I guess.
Yeah.
That's true.
Do you travel by yourself for something like that, or do you have somebody come with you to help assist?
Usually I'll go by myself. I've gotten really good at kind of being like a one-man show. You know, keep it simple in terms of gear and lighting and things like that, and kind of, you know, you sort of learn to MacGyver things and do some DIY stuff, as far as, you know, rigging stuff up if you have to. But you know, if friends want to come, cool. If not, then I mean, like I went and did a shoot in Greece a few years ago, or went to Greece a few years ago, and traveled with somebody, and then it's like, all right, I'm gonna go shoot some photos, so I'll just go off on my own for a while, kind of thing. And then like I've gone like not too long ago, I took a trip to New York, and it's like, all right, I went with friends, but at the times that I'm like shooting, it's like I'm just gonna peel off and I'll catch up with you guys later, kind of thing. Just because like if they're not going specifically for it, like it's like not super fun to assist sometimes if you're not interested in it. And I feel like I've used that card with all of my friends, like, hey, come help me out on this shoot real quick. I'll buy you dinner or I'll buy you beer. That only gets you so far, apparently. So gotten really good at just sort of being a one-man show, which is fine by me because I like a small kind of intimate shoot sometimes anyway. It's nice to have like just a mellow scenario where as opposed to like 30 people on set and people screaming and chaos.
They're screaming shark.
Yeah, God.
Dolphin.
I'm trying to avoid sharks for now, but we'll see. Maybe I'll go to Australia and shoot with the sharks down there.
Because they're not small or anything down
Right?
there.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm gonna get eaten by a shark, I want to be eaten by a big one.
I had a question about your traveling. Something that I probably watch too much, like Border Patrol shows, because I love them.
Yeah, I do too.
Australian ones.
Yeah.
Like,
oh
my God,
man,
I love that
out
one.
back.
Yeah, but traveling with camera gear, a lot of places have restrictions on working in countries without the proper visas and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any trouble traveling with gear and them saying your job as a photographer, you have your gear, we don't believe you that you're not coming here not to take money from our people?
No, I haven't had any issues with that. And it's all when I do travel, like I try and take just the bare minimum, like especially like lighting equipment stuff. I feel like that's always like a really big red flag. So if I'm going abroad, I generally like if I'm gonna need any light, I'll just do like on camera flash or try and stick to like bounce and things like that, because you could probably like get by with a reflector or something like that. But if you're bringing 12 stands and pro photo heads and stuff like that, they're like that's gonna raise a red flag. But yeah, just trying to minimize your impact and things like that. And I always carry on my camera. Like anybody who checks their camera and is out of their damn mind. Like I don't know how anybody could ever do that. Like, I don't trust TSA with my clothes, much less like my most prized possessions. But yeah, I think it's a lot of, especially if you're traveling abroad, it's kind of about minimizing your footprint. And most of the stuff that I'm shooting, if I'm traveling, is more like editorial as opposed to commercial. So it's not quite as much of an issue, luckily. I guess we'll cross that bridge whenever I have a big international job. Like the one thing that I kind of try and recommend to people is, first of all, pay for the TSA pre-check, because that expedites you through security. Because especially now, like with the new travel regulations, at some airports they're starting to make people take cameras out of bags. Which if you're traveling with like 3 or 4 cameras, that's such a pain in the ass. So TSA pre-check, like that's a good workaround there. And then, if it seems like if it's a popular flight or if it's like going to be a full flight, I'll just pay for like the priority boarding. If it's like $60 or something like that, like that way at least I know I'm going to get an overhead spot. It's just like that's a huge phobia of mine too.
Me too.
I was gonna ask about like meetings. Did you ever do back in the day when you were freelancing, which was only 3 months ago?
Way back when.
Way back when. Did you do like in-person meetings? Did you do that whole route kind of thing?
Yeah, to some degree. Like I'll make it a point to, go and at least stop by the modeling agencies every once in a while and say what's up and hang out or take them some cookies, because it's a great bribe when you want better models for shoots. Food helps. And then like the regular clients that I have, stop by every once in a while. And then a lot of times getting a face-to-face is the best way to like for sure cement a job or cement a relationship. And yeah, if it's like, all right, pack up, throw my iPad in my bag, try and make myself look reasonably presentable and just like go meet a new client. And I'm an introverted person, so I hate that. But yeah, for sure, like you kind of have to do it every once in a while. Luckily, like people, communicate almost entirely online now. So like sometimes it's, like I've had people that I've worked with for months, you know, like bookers and things like that, who I've known for years that I've never even met in person. And then like we meet at a party and it's like, oh my God, I feel like we're best friends already.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've ever been face to face. And then I've had clients and stuff like that where it's like, we want to meet you before we even consider anything. Yeah. So it kind of depends on the person. But it's definitely a skill worth having. It's just like being able to put on that face and that meeting face and, you know, try and schmooze a little bit, which I'm not great at, but you fake it, you know, a little bit. You're like, totally, I can do this job. Like, I remember like the very first time I ever had a prospective client ask to meet with me was for like a beauty campaign. And so I like, you know, I got all dressed up and I had like, I had a printed portfolio at this time. It was like right after college, and I go to this meeting and I'm like, all right, I'm going to nail this. And they're like, all right, well, how much do you think this would cost? You know, like rough bid kind of thing. And I just like threw out a number, and they immediately were like, this kid doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Like, and I was just like, oh shit. Like, I totally bombed this meeting because I was unprepared. Like, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And they like, luckily the lady that I met with was cool. She's like, I get it. You're new. You're a young photographer. Just FYI, like, we would have hired you right up until the point where you underbid this job by like several $1,000s. That was an indication to us that you weren't ready for it. And I was like, damn, like, that sucks. But I learned from it. And eventually they wound up hiring me later on down the road, luckily, for something else. But at the time I was like, okay, maybe I need to like have sort of a clue what I'm doing before I go and meet with a prospective client. That was probably like my first real gut check. It was.
Yeah, you never thought underbidding would be a bad thing.
Yeah, I was like, man, this sounds like so much money. Hopefully they don't like tell me I'm crazy. And in reality, it was like several thousand less than what it should have been. And you know, I didn't know any better. I was like 21, 22, something like that. Just you know, just a kid. It was like a couple $1,000 sounds like a lot of money to me, but no, it's not. Some, you know, not for what it was. But, you know, you learn, you live and learn. Like I said, you get those gut checks every once in a while. Yeah. And they still happen from time to time. But.
And how did you learn pricing and bidding and all that? Because that's a whole nother thing.
I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, honestly, a lot of times, you know, when you're first starting out, it's just like asking your peers, like, hey, do you think, like, this is a decent number for this job? If you've got a friend who, like, maybe is a little bit more ahead of the game than you are. And then just kind of like online research, like market research and stuff like that. And then there have been a few times where I've had larger companies that asked me to bid for something that I felt unprepared for. And I had hit up like a photo rep and been like, look, I know you don't rep me, but you know, could you give me some advice on this? And I can, you know, maybe I'll pay you a fee. And they've helped me out. Like, and that's something that they'll occasionally do if you find a rep that's cool and you know, not like super crazy busy. You know, maybe find like a boutique, you know, photo agency and be like, hey, look, like, just do me a kind of a one-off thing and help me bid this, and I'll give you the agency fee and stuff like that. And I've done that a couple of times too. And then once you kind of like figure out your spot in the industry and like the kind of clients that you're getting, you can kind of figure it out and like sort of develop like, you know, what an average rate is for the type of work that you're doing. And then hopefully that rate slowly climbs.
Yeah.
We'll see. You never know. But yeah, that's definitely an option that a lot of people sometimes overlook is like just approach an agent and be like, hey, you know, can you help me out with this? I'll give you the fee. Don't go to like art and commerce and do that though. Like they're too busy repping like the top of the industry. They'll probably just not even respond to you.
Right. Like, who is this?
Right, yeah. But yeah, if you find like a smaller, like a boutique rep and, you know, maybe you build up a working relationship and eventually they rep you.
Yeah, that's another great tip right there.
Yeah. It's not for everybody. There's definitely like pros and cons to having an agent, and the market is kind of changed over the years where now like agents aren't really looking to groom new photographers. They're looking to take on working photographers. So that's, you know, kind of changed a lot over the last several years. But yeah, if you want to get repped, you know, having a relationship, that's a kind of a cool way an interesting way to start, as opposed to like that cold email or waiting on somebody to knock on your door. You know, money talks, and if you're willing to throw somebody a few bucks and it shows them that you're working, not a bad route to take.
I wanted to ask you about how you move on from shooting new faces all the time to getting more advanced models.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think it starts from just building a good personal working relationship with the bookers, and I think one mistake that people have a tendency to make is to like bounce around from agency to agency and like shoot one model from each, and then nobody really ever starts to build up that working relationship with you. If you focus on a couple of agencies and shoot a bunch of their models, a lot of times you kind of will graduate to getting better models. But sometimes it's not that simple, and you kind of have to like push things a little bit and kind of demonstrate your worth a bit, I guess is how I would put it. And if you're putting together a shoot and you've got a full team and things like that, it's if you've been working with them for a while and you see that they're using your work in their books regularly, be like, look, this is a bigger shoot. I'm putting a little more effort into this one. I've got a team and we're going to shoot at this location, blah, blah, blah. Can I get somebody who's, get a main board model? Because ultimately, like, you kind of, at some point, you just sort of have to start asking for things in this industry, which is what I've found. Because I'm the type of person where I'm like, I don't want to be too pushy or anything like that. And you'll get the least out of people voluntarily every time. We're like, all right, it's easy. I've got 12 new faces that need pictures. If he's not going to push me for better model, we're just going to we're going to get our books filled. And you kind of have to push a little bit. This is an industry where a lot of it is asking for favors and things like that. And, if you've got that good working relationship, with, whatever booker at, X agency, you can be like, look, hey, I want to kind of take things to the next step. And sometimes, if you don't know, like, why you're not getting that, just ask. Like, feedback is always a good thing. And sometimes it's hard to get, and maybe you might get some critical feedback. Be like, look, hey, what do I need to do? Just email the booker and be like, what do I need to do to start testing with mainboard models? Some higher end models that, are, more experienced and stuff like that. And maybe they'll tell you, like, look, we like what you're doing, but maybe you're a little inconsistent, or you've got a good eye, you're giving us usable images for new faces, but we need something a little more refined and a little more polished for like a higher end model who's not testing as frequently, because like the girls that are on that main board, they're working a lot, and any day that they're testing, doing a shoot for free is a day that they're not making money for themselves, but ultimately for the agency. They're a business, and so if they're going to do the favor of giving you a really great working model, for free for a whole day sometimes, or half a day, like, it's got to be worth it for them. So sometimes you just have to ask for that feedback, and they'll tell you, and hopefully they'll tell you in like a constructive way. And if you've been working with them for a while, they will, like, obviously they like you to some degree. They're still, at least even giving you new faces is an achievement, and shows some measure of confidence that they have in you. And so just ask them, like, hey, what do I need to do to get to that next level? Because they're working with hundreds of photographers. In LA, there's like a bazillion photographers, and some of them that they're working with are really well established and are very skilled. So they know, like, bookers know who's a good photographer and who's not a good photographer, and who's good to work with and things like that. And they'll, a lot of times they'll help you. I've had plenty of plenty of bookers who have kind of helped me learn and grow and get better at what I'm doing, or tell me what I'm doing wrong, or tell me like, hey, look, you kind of fumbled this shoot, like, it happens. We don't all have great shoots every time. I just had one like not too long ago where it was like, we did the shoot and it was swim stuff, and it was just a test because I wanted to, update my book with some fresh images and have some social media posts. And we happened to be in the middle of like a super sunny week, and then went to the beach on the one gloomy day.
Oh man.
And the booker was like, hey, like, they're fine images. We can't really use them because like we don't need like nobody wants black and white swim images. It's like, it doesn't really sell much. But it happens. No harm, no foul. And as long as you don't like take it personally and send them a snarky email back or something like that, which I know people who have done that, where they're like, have gotten into fights with bookers because they didn't like some feedback or something like that. Don't do that, because then you're never going to get anybody.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to get you thrown out. And most of these bookers are friends with other bookers at other agencies.
You're not getting anywhere.
And you're basically tying a boat anchor to your foot and jumping off a boat.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't do that. But yeah, just being open and a good communicator, I think is probably the best course of action to take. And just to ask, you know, like, hey, can I shoot some mainboard models? Like, I want to, you know, I'm really trying to refine my style and build my book to a higher level. And you know, if you're asking for a top end model and it's just like, I'm doing a test shoot in my studio, it's gonna be me and the model, and she's just gonna bring whatever. Unless you're really good at what you do, or unless whatever your style is something that model needs, it's not worth it for them. You know, you have to bring something to the table. Just gotta work a little harder, which is hard sometimes. You know, it's not easy to like produce a whole shoot. Like, trust me.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's hard to get a good stylist and a full team and a cool location. But if you put out that effort, you can be like, look, you can show them like, hey, look, got a whole team here, got a really cool location. This is gonna be something epic. You guys have used every picture I've sent you before. There's no reason why this would be any different. And this is a higher caliber, so give me a higher caliber model.
Pretty
Please.
Yeah.
Please. And here's a cookie.
Yeah, exactly. And stop by, like, and be like, afterwards, you know, stop by the agency and be like, here, I'll buy you some cookies or some cupcakes.
Yeah.
Love me and more, and send me more good models. Yeah.
Yep.
And then, you know, when they invite you to their agency party, like, just show up, which is something that I'm bad about doing. It's like, I hate going out to clubs and stuff like that. But, you know, the agencies are always having holiday parties, and they have a party for, it seems like, every season that goes by. Just go up, show your face, like, at least say what's up to the booker that you work the most with. That way they know that you made the effort to show up, and you know, that, you know, they mean something to you as well.
What do you think a lot of newish photographers who are starting to test with agencies, what are mistakes that they're making and when they're not seeing their images show up in their book, like on the model site, you know?
Don't shoot nudes. I mean, honestly, like, that's a big one. You know, a lot of people want to shoot naked girls, and if that's like what ultimately your goal is, you're not gonna get super far in the industry. And some girls are totally down with it, and you'll know which ones are by looking at their books usually, or looking at their social media. But if you're trying to build a relationship with the agency, you have to keep in mind the agency's goal is to market those models to people who will pay them. And the amount of outlets that will pay agencies for naked models is very slim. We're talking like Playboy, and that's basically it. For the most part, as far as like stuff that's respectable, quote unquote, and that's a whole other personal, you know, preference thing. But they're trying to sell them to fashion brands and stuff like that. So you need to have, even if it's just like jeans and a t-shirt, that's a whole lot more usable to an agency than girl laying on the concrete floor of your empty studio wearing nothing, or like rolling around in the sand naked. Like, sure, that might be a beautiful picture, and we, you know, all of us have shot those images, and it's fun to shoot, you know, artistic stuff like that, but that's not gonna get you very far with the agencies. Or if you're gonna do something like that, be like, all right, like, first of all, you have to be really upfront with what your intentions are and what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you're like, hey, look, I see this model has done some nudes and stuff like that, I would like to, but I also see that maybe her book doesn't have much swim stuff. We're gonna go to the beach. I'll shoot a few bikinis. I'll shoot some swim looks, and then if she's cool with it, we might do like a nude look if that's okay with you. That's at least a little bit more, you know, mutually beneficial approach to something like that. And then the other thing that mistake that a lot of new photographers make is doing too much. Like, really crazy makeup is the worst. Like, no makeup is better than bad makeup is kind of like what I always tell photographers that are starting out. And if you have like super weird eye makeup that's like covering half the model's face, the agency is never going to use that. And maybe after you've built a relationship with the agency, and if it's like something more editorial, you can do something like that. But that's not until you've shot, you know, a bunch of just super basic ass tests that are just show the model really well, that you're going to be able to get away with doing something like that. Because if it's your first shoot with the agency and you shoot something super off the wall with like weird styling that is not like everybody's cup of tea and crazy makeup, they're just gonna be like, that's what this guy does, and that's not beneficial to us. So there's
Right.
not a whole lot of reason for us to continue to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
So start, still shoot what you want to shoot, still shoot something that's true to what you want to do, but start with something that's a little bit more toned down, I guess is how I would put it. Crawl before you walk kind of thing with working with the agencies, because ultimately they're your gateway to the models. If you're doing things by the book, and, social media has kind of changed that a little bit because now we have direct access to a lot of models. But if you're in terms of going through agencies, just like make sure you're giving them something that is going to be useful for them.
Right.
Or if you've got them for a full day and you want to do something weird, in the morning before the makeup artist has done something crazy, shoot a couple of really basic looks and then go crazy. Then you're both getting something out of it, if you have the time. But don't just shoot a whole full day of super weird, like, off clothes that nobody's ever going to wear, and like a full face of crazy makeup and like huge teased hair. Like they're never going to use that ever. So you're kind of limiting yourself there. But super basic when you're first starting out, like just you and a model and like jeans and a tank top is totally fine, and you can shoot some really great images with really basic setup and very minimal styling.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes to the storytelling aspect of it, or the having a voice too. Is start with those basics. Don't let the props tell it. Like tell
Exactly.
it. Yeah, you tell it.
Yeah, for sure.
So strip down the model.
Right.
Not strip down. Without
Unless they're
permission.
okay with it.
Unless they're okay with it. End of age.
End of age, right?
Fresh
yeah, exactly.
faces is a dangerous realm.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, strip it down. Tell the story.
Right. Just like learn to make a really beautiful image of somebody with very minimal stuff, and the agencies will love you for that.
Yeah.
Like that, they eat that stuff up. Like it's crazy. If you can do just like if you can shoot I always tell people, like, if you can shoot a really good, super basic, no makeup portrait of somebody, like for a comp card cover, bookers will bend over backwards for you if you can consistently deliver that to them. Because every model needs that like super solid comp card cover image that is real minimal and real simple and just effective. And if you can execute that consistently, like, they'll let you do fun things. They will.
Yeah.
You just have to give them a little to get there.
Yeah. It is a business.
It is a business. Everybody's trying to make money.
Yep.
Otherwise, we would be just artists. Starving artists.
Starving.
Thank you so much for watching Photo Work. Please do us a favor and hit like and subscribe.
Yeah, and don't forget to comment and tell us some people that you want us to interview. Also, don't forget to check out our suggested videos
Over here or over here, but somewhere in there.
somewhere in there.